Now let's take a look at how transactions are entered into QuickBooks. One of the first things I recommend you do is open up the home page. To do so, you click Company and then Home Page. This gives you a graphical representation of the workflows for this particular company. Depending on the company, this workflow diagram could change. Let's also open up a trial balance. To open up a report, it's just as simple as finding a report on the list and then entering the date that you want the report to show. I'm going to choose January 31st, 2013. I'm going to hit Tab, or I could click Refresh to refresh the data and bring up the most current data as of January 31st. According to this, we have $45,000 of cash, $12,000 of furniture, notes payable $7,000, and capital of $50,000. Now, accounting students are used to entering transactions in the general journal. QuickBooks has a general journal, and it's found under Company, Make General Journal Entries. Let's say I wanted to buy $50 of office supplies on January 31st. To do so, using the general journal, I have to know that my office supplies are going to go up. So I find office supplies, and since I've taken an accounting course, I know office supplies go up with a debit. So I have a $50 debit. And let's say I'm writing a check. In other words, I'm using cash to pay for these office supplies. So I know that cash is going to go down. And since it's a check, I have to say check number 0001 purchased from Office Depot. Okay? Now there's three different ways to save this transaction. I could click Save and Close, and what that's going to do is save the transaction and then close the window. But if I wanted to save the transaction and leave the window open and blank out this transaction so I can enter a new one, I would click Save and New. Or if I just wanted to save the transaction, leave this window open, but not blank it out for a new transaction, I could just click Save. So I'm going to click Save. Now I'm going to go back down to my trial balance, and look what has happened. I have $50 of office supplies and $50 less of cash. So what QuickBooks has done is, as soon as I save the transaction with any of these three buttons, it has automatically posted the transactions to the ledger, and the balances show up on any reports that might be open. Now, QuickBooks was designed for non-accountants to use. So most people do not know what debits or credits are. They do not know that a debit for an asset means that the asset is going up, and that a credit for an asset means the asset is going down. They also probably don't know what an asset is. So this window is not going to be used very often in QuickBooks. We're going to close this window. I don't have to click Save or anything because it's already been saved. And I'm going to show you the more correct window to use if I was writing a check. So notice down here in the banking section, I have an icon called Writing Checks, or Write Checks. If I hover over it, it even tells me write checks for an expense that have not been entered in as a bill in QuickBooks, or to record a cash transaction. So I'm going to click this, and now we have a window that looks like a check. You're going to find out that most non-accountants can use this window, whereas they probably would not be able to successfully use the general journal window. So let's do another transaction. This time I want to go to Grayson Graphics, and I want to write a check. Let's say it's check number, I don't want to print it, it's check number 20002, still on January 31st. This time it's going to be for $25, and the item that I'm buying is going to be design supplies. Okay? Notice how easy this is to read and understand what this is. Now for my memo, what I might want to put is what type of design supplies I bought. And then I'm going to, since I'm done writing checks with this window, I'm going to use save and close. And when I do that, down here, the cash should go down, and all of a sudden we should have a design supplies show up on our trial balance. Save and close, and voila, our cash went down, and all of a sudden we have $25 of design supplies. So from now on, for routine transactions such as entering a bill and then later paying that bill, or creating an invoice, which means you're billing your customer and receiving the payment later, and then later receiving that payment from that customer, hopefully, we're going to use these icons. Another way to find the icons is to go up to here. Vendors. Notice this is our vendor section. So our vendors, we could enter bills. Notice we have enter bills here and enter bills here. Let's open this up. And the enter bills window opens. I'm going to close this, click the enter bills window, and show you that it takes you to the same place. So what this book is going to do is it's going to show you how to use these menus, which for some people is not very intuitive, or you can use these icons down here. I recommend using these icons down here. Another thing that's nice about these icons is if you point to the icon, it gives you a tip about what this item is for. And then what's really going on here is these windows are special journals. If you've had Intro to Accounting or Intro Accounting 2, you may have heard of special journals. These are just windows that are designed specifically for a certain purpose. Like when we go to the Write Checks window, this looks like a check. And it's designed only to be used for writing a check. So it's quick and efficient. We're going to enter a bill. Notice this looks like a bill. We have the vendor here. We have the due date, etc. So for now on, we're going to use these special journals to enter our routine transactions, and we're only going to use the Make General Journal window, Make General Journal Entries window, for non-routine items such as adjusting entries that are done at the end of the period or closing entries. One final thing, when you are using these windows such as Write Checks, if you want to go back to a transaction, you can click Previous, and then you can find the transaction. And if you need to make an error, if you need to make a correction, all you have to do is make the correction and either click Save, Save and Close, or Save and New. I'm going to click Save. Notice it says you've changed this transaction. Do you want to record your changes? Yes. Okay, now some of you may be wondering, well, what happens to the journal? I'm used to seeing everything in the journal. So anytime you enter a transaction in a window, you can also run a journal report. To do that, you go to the Reports, Accountants and Taxes, click Journal. Notice the transactions that we entered were entered on June 31st, 2013. So I want to show only the transactions on June 31st, 2013. I'm going to click Tab to refresh, or I can click on Refresh. And then here we go. We have 3 transactions that were entered on January 31st. Here are the 2 that we did, and then here's one that the authors did. So if you're ever curious if you did a transaction right in a certain window, you can always go to the journal report, open it up, and see if the debit and credit makes sense to you. Just be aware that sometimes QuickBooks will put the credit first before the debit.